So welcome to my channel Tech and Art. Good evening guys. So whoever new on my channel, please do like, subscribe. So today topic is basically always on availability group. So it's an end-to-end session. So I would suggest please watch the complete video. Okay. So without wasting my time, I'm jumping to the topic. Oh, next slide please. So here I am going to talk about bit before always on we will discuss about the database mirroring, because the AG is an enhanced feature of database mirroring. So what was the problem with the database mirroring, why Microsoft introduced the AG? Okay, so if you see the bullet points here, so in a database mirroring, it's limited to a single failover partner. Okay, and it's capable of failing over the only a single database at a time, although this worked for a simple application. So database mirroring, basically it was capable to do the failover only for the single database at a time, right? Because it's a one-to-one configuration. If you see the third drawback, you can say the drawback, it must be implemented either the synchronous or asynchronous. You have choose one or to the other. Okay, so only two we have. Database mirroring cannot be accessible. So database mirroring we cannot access. So these are the drawbacks with the database mirroring. Because of that, the AG came in picture to reduce the drawback. So if you talked about here between the AG and FCI, failover cluster instance. So now the question is why? Because we have the FCI failover cluster, then why AG introduced actually? So lot of differences between the FCI and AG. So I have covered a couple of major differences which is helpful for AG, which cannot do with the FCI. So if you see the first, so database will be online immediately in a synchronous mode. So in a AG, so database, when the failover is happening, immediately database will come in a synchronous, right? Synchronized. In a FCI, once the instance move to another mode, then database will recovery process will take time to come the database online. So this is the first benefit, which is very helpful. In a AG, no need the shared storage. This is the major difference between AG and FCI. In a FCI, need a shared storage. It may be SAN or SMB, whatever. So that was the major difference. Only available in Enterprise Edition. AG, we can only select Enterprise Edition in 2016 with a Standard Edition also with the limited functionality. We will talk the later. If you see the third point, okay. But in a FCI, available in Enterprise Edition with 2 nodes. Okay. If you see the database level, a DB only moved, not jobs and logins. In a AG, database only moving, right? But in a failover cluster instance, entire the instance is moving to the secondary. And AG, it's giving you HADR. That's the reason always on called as a HADR, high availability and disaster recovery. But failover cluster only HA, high availability. We cannot consider cluster as a DR setup. This is the major confusion. People are thinking we have a cluster setup, so we have a DR. No, cluster is not helping as a DR until unless your storage replica is there. Because suppose you have a 2-node cluster and both the node is using a SAN, you don't have the a DR setup in a storage side. So if SAN is goes down, there is no use for cluster, right? But HADR, but AG, it's not depending on a storage, shared storage. So AG we can call as a DR also, but cluster we cannot consider as a DR, only HA. Okay. Database should be in a full recovery mode in a AG. Here in FCI, no need anything requirement for DB recovery model because it's an instance level, right? So protection against the IO subsystem failure, that is automatic page repair, it's there in AG. in FCI does not maintain a redundant copy of the database, hence does not protect against the IO subsystem failures. Application connection via AG is a list through listener, right? So application connection via in a cluster via virtual server name. Okay, so these are the couple of highlighted points which I trying to cover between AG and FCI. So it's almost covered the major thing. Okay, go to the next slide. So here the prerequisites for the AG configuration. So I have segregated pretty much good here as a server level and database level. So firstly we'll talk about the server level. What are the prerequisites for the AG configuration? So first point, if you see here, all the nodes should be a part of Windows failover cluster. Okay, so whatever the node is a part of AG, it should be part of Windows failover cluster. Okay, all SQL Server instance should be Enterprise Edition. Only Enterprise Edition is supporting AG. Okay, in 2016 I will talk later Standard Edition also, but only the limited features. Okay, all SQL Server instance should have a same SQL Server coalition setting. This is the major difference. If you are doing the the build work, so you have to focus about the coalition setting. Whatever the the server node is part of AG, their coalition should be same. Okay, the host server cannot be domain controller. Okay, this is also major points. The OS should be Windows Server 2008 or Windows Server 2008 R2 or Enterprise in Data Center Edition. Okay, for the core bus to work. Okay, so all SQL Server, one second, let me select. So all SQL instance need to run as the same domain account, and SPN must be manually registered with the virtual network name availability groups. Okay, so here one thing, SPN, I would suggest you go and read some articles about the SPN, because it's a new thing. It's a Windows part, but you should have a knowledge about, because SPN is required for AG. Okay, we'll talk about later. So if any database that use the file stream will be added to an availability group, ensure that file stream is enabled on every instance that will host the availability replica for the AG. So this is also major point which you need to focus before doing the build work. If any database having the file stream enabled, so the replica also should have the file stream enabled. Okay, if any content database will be added to an AG, ensure that the content database authentication server option is set to 1 on every server instance that will host an availability replica for the AG. So here also for the content database, if any database is a part of content database, then the replica database also the server option should set to 1 on every replica. Okay, open firewall for port 1433 default port SQL Server and 5022. So this is the default port you can utilize based on your organization or demand. If you come to next slide, so this slide we will talk about the prerequisites for the database level. Okay, so here couple of things we should do the focus if you are configuring the AAG. So before AAG you should have the pretty much good checklist. Okay, so for database level, what are the things which need to keep in mind? So all the database must be in a full recovery model. Only the full recovery model is supporting AG. Okay, so this is the point. Database must be in a multi-user mode, and the third, database must be read-write. Read-only database aren't support. Okay, database must be in a read-write mode. This is the major things. Database can't use the auto close features. I have created one session about the auto close features. If you want, I will provide the link in the description. You can go and watch. So database can't use the auto close features. One full backup needed to be created for the database. So what are the things here for the name perspective? So AAG should be 15 characters or or less. Limit in GUI TSQL will appear 24 characters, but transaction of the name while displaying. Okay, so as per the Microsoft recommendation, the AAG name should be less than 15 characters. Okay. Here the availability group must be created with the user database. System database can't support. So basics points, but you should keep in mind, not belong to any availability group. Database can't be configured to use the database mirroring. Okay. If the XYZ database already is a part of database mirroring, that database is can't a part of AAG. Okay. Microsoft also recommends that the database files path to be same on the primary and secondary. So this is the highlighted point actually. So whenever you are trying configuring the AAG, basically your the files directory, files path should be same on a primary and secondary. So it's very much helping to adding the additional file on a primary or so immediately it will replicate on a secondary, no need to do the manual work. Okay, so this is the major points. Whenever you trying to configure the AAG, try to keep the same path for the database files. Okay. Sorry. Now we'll talk about the permission. So we have couple of things which we need to focus about the permission side. If you enable the always on availability groups, so what are the permission required? So requires membership in the administrator group of the local computer and full control of the Windows Server failover cluster. Okay. The second one, the SQL Server service account used by both replicas has write permission to shared folder. So this is also important things. The service account of SQL Server should have the write permission about the shared folder where the logs will keep, so that folder having the complete permission. Okay. I have marked these things in a note. So availability group listener only, use only TCP/IP. So all clients connecting must be TCP/IP. Okay. So this also need to keep in mind. So here we'll talk about the AAG failover scenario. So database failovers, if you see here, database failovers are not caused by the issues related to individuals database such as database files corruption and database becoming suspect due to loss of data file corruption after transaction logs. Okay, but factors at the instance level. So if anything in instance level, yeah, it's a factor, but database failovers are not caused by the issue related to individual database. Okay. So what are the terminology we are using in a AAG? So I just marked as a couple of things highlighted here. So in a availability group in a AAG, what we are normally talking. So logical container, it's a logical container for a set of database. Okay. So yeah, we can say one line definition. What is the AAG? It's a logical container for a set of database, availability database that fails over together. Okay. Whenever required, it's happening together. If you come here, the availability group AAG replica. So what we are talking here, terminology. So the availability DBs on the primary and secondary instance are replicas. All the instance, not server, particularly in a given AAG, are replicas. If you said, talked about the primary versus secondary replicas. So primary, the main replicas, where we can do the read and write. Secondary replicas receives the logs traffic from the primary replica and only readable. Okay, not write. In this slide, we will talk about the availability group listener. Okay, so this is very, very important. So what is the listener actually? So An availability group listener is a virtual network. It's a virtual network to which clients can connect to access a database without knowing the name of the instance. Sorry. So it's a VNN, virtual network name. Through that, client can access your database instance. So what happened earlier in a cluster scenario? In a cluster scenario, client is knowing the SQL, connecting the SQL with the instance name. Okay, but here we have a listener. So the client will directly connect to listener, and listener will tell what are the instance, who is the primary instance and who can take the responsibility. Okay, if primary goes down, it will replicate to the secondary. Listener will route the connection to secondary. So listener is here playing the classical role for communication between client and SQL Server instance. Okay, if you see this line, availability group listener directs incoming connection to the primary replicas or a read only secondary replica. The listener provides the facts application failover after an AG fails over. Okay, then the point is, what are the things the listener is containing actually, what are the things required for listener actually. So a DNS name is required, a port number is required, or an IP is required. Okay, so these are the things required. The listener is always owned by the SQL Server instance where the primary replicas resides. So I already discussed, whenever the client a request is coming, so listener will route you only to the primary replica. Okay, listener always listening to primary replica. Okay, if your primary goes down and secondary is behaving like a primary, so listener will route the connection to secondary, because secondary as of now is a primary. Okay, so note, a listener can share a same port with an instance or using a different port. So port, a listener can use the same port, whatever the port is using by instance, or it may be different also. In the next slide, so here we are talking about the availability mode. So we have same like asynchronous or synchronous. I am not going in details because we all aware in database meeting also. So same functionality here, synchronous or asynchronous. So in asynchronous, it's not waiting for the ACK signal. It will take the further connection without taking the ACK information. In a synchronous, it will wait to get the ACK signal. Same concept here also in a AG. Okay, so now failover mode. So this is the quite good actually. So in this slide we discussed about what are the failover modes available in a AG. So there are 3 modes which we can use to do for failover. So here the first one is planned manual failover without data loss. Why we are saying without data loss? Because normally this type of action taken by the DBA based on his maintenance scheduled jobs. So okay, so suppose you schedule a planned failover mode. So in this mode there is no chance for data loss. Okay, so automatic failover also without data loss in case of instance failures. So suppose you have 2 node AG, and the primary health is not okay. So in that case, if your replica is if your AG is configured in a synchronous mode, then only it will happen the automatic failover. Okay, otherwise it will not happen. So I marked it here in a note actually. So for those 2 nodes, the primary and secondary replica must be configured as a in a synchronous AG availability mode, and the secondary must be synchronized. So only this automatic failover is possible if you configured the AG in a synchronous availability mode. The third one is a forced manual failover without with possible data loss. Why? Because we are doing the forcefully. It's a manual approach, so there is a chance, yes, it may be not data loss, but yes, there is a chance also for data loss in this failover mode. Okay, So that's the reason we called as a with possible data loss. Okay, because the target instance applied in asynchronous availability mode, so there is a chance for data loss. So in a note section, so all these above three things you can do with the Management Studio. We have a AG dashboard. Through dashboard we can do easily. If you want to do with the script also, we can do with the script, but we have pretty much good dashboard for the AG. We can do it with the dashboard. Okay. Now in this slide we will talk about the AG difference in a SQL build. If you are doing the build work, if you need to configure AG, so you should aware these things. Actually, this is very helpful. So I have discussed here a couple of points. What are the points required in each version? So number of secondary replica in a 2012 we can do only 4. In 2014 we can do 8. In 2016 we can do 8, right? Number of synchronized replica we can do for 2012 2. 2014 we can do 2, and 2016 we can do 3. If you talked about automatic failover partner, in a 2012 we can do 2 replica. In a SQL Server 2014 we can do 2 replica, and in 2016 we can do with the 3 replica. The secondary replica permits the read workload, if the Windows Server cluster code on primary replica. So in a 2012 we don't have the read replica in terms of Windows Server fail lost we are talking about here. In a 2014, yes, we can do. In a 2016 also we can do the read workload if WSFCI lost. In the next slide, the AG standard edition. Here we are talking about, it's a basic availability group you will get if you are using the AG standard edition. So 2 replica only you can use, 1 database per group you can use. The secondary replica is not readable, no backup on secondary. You cannot take the schedule a backup on a secondary. Okay, so only these are the features you will get if you are using AG in a standard edition. Here I have discussed what are the new things added in a 2016 AG. Okay, so the first thing is the distributed transaction coordinator, MSDTC. Second, optimized log transport. Third, the failover on a database health. This is very helpful. What's happened, I'm explaining bit here. So basically what are these features, failover on database health. So in a before 2016, in a 2012 and 2014, if your the primary health is not good, so whatever the database associated with the AG, it will entirely do the failover to the secondary. If suppose your AG name is XYZ and that XYZ having the 10 database, so if due to one database it's creating a problem and it's need to do the failover, it will do the failover on a secondary with but in here in a 2016 we can do the failover on a particular database level. Suppose the same if you have the 10 database setup and 1 or 2 database having some problem and that need to do the failovers, no need to do entire AG on a secondary, only those database you can do the failover. So this is the best enhancement in a 2016. The group managed service account, I have already told you, you can read it, these things. This is also good features. In GMSA you don't need to reset for the password, means you no need to worry about the password, it's automatically managed by the AD. So I would suggest go and read this GMSA. The load balancing, readable secondaries also, it's a pretty much good features. Increased number of auto failover targets and the domain independent availability groups. So this is also good features, you can read it. So these are the major enhancement in 2016. If you come here in the next slide, prerequisites to apply the patches in AAG. So now as a DBA, we should always prepare to do the patching and all. So for patching, what are the things to apply? Here we will discuss. So make sure the failover test between synchronized replica before patching. So before applying the patch, you should be confident the failover is happening or not. Okay. Remove the automatic failover while updating the patch. This is the very important. While you are applying the patch, you should remove this automatic failover. Take backup to the database or ensure the last full and followed log backups are taken. This is the very important things. You should care about any activity, before any activity, backups. Okay. And here we are going to apply patch. So definitely you should care about the database backup. Okay. Check consistency of the database. This is also very important. You should check the database consistency before applying the any patch. Now the point is how to apply patch for the AAG. So it's the same like Windows failover cluster instance which we did actually. So same method here also. In a mirroring also we did same way. So same way we can do the patch here also in AAG. Okay. So what are the approach? So apply patch in a in the secondary replica B first, and bring the secondary replica B online and wait for secondary replica B to synchronized. Once the synchronization done, do the failover AAG from primary A to the secondary replica, and then apply patches on the original primary replica, and then wait for the original primary replica A to be synchronized. Once the synchronization done, do the failover. Okay, again back. So again your so now your both instance is patched now with the new patch. Okay, so this is the patching approach. It's a common which we used for the mirroring also, even the cluster also, right? So next slide guys, that's it for the AAG today session. So thank you guys. Please like and subscribe my channel. My channel is Tech and Art. So I will provide all the description, all the links in my description for the related topics. So in the next session I will come with another session. Thank you. Bye bye. Cheers.